Family and friends of a teenager killed in West Palm Beach honoring her life tonight after police say Kelvi McCray was shot and killed by her ex-boyfriend. Hundreds of her friends and family came together on Singer Island. Our Joe Lopez was there as loved ones gathered tonight.
Family says that Kelvi loved the beach and the color purple, so what better way to honor her as they said their goodbyes.
On March 6, 2024, 19-year-old Kelvi McCray was found dead in her Jacksonville apartment. Just one day earlier, police had responded to a domestic disturbance call involving McCray and her ex-boyfriend, 20-year-old Kaleb Shaw. Reports indicate McCray expressed concerns for her safety after the confrontation, yet Shaw was not taken into custody. Authorities stated that victim services were offered, but questions remain about why Shaw was allowed to remain at large and whether standard domestic violence protocols were followed. Within 24 hours of that police response, McCray's life had ended. The case has raised serious concerns about how early warnings were handled, whether law enforcement missed opportunities for intervention, and the larger systemic failures in protecting victims of intimate partner violence. This account examines the timeline, the decisions made, and the unanswered questions that continue to surround the death of Kelvi McCray. Stay with us as we unravel the shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and what are your thoughts as the story unfolds. Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Kelvi Latrice McCray was born and raised in West Palm Beach, Florida. At the time of her death, she was 18 years old. She grew up in a large family, the second youngest of 5 siblings. Her mother, Marla McKinney, and her father, Kelvin McCray, were both active figures in her life. Her relatives described her as someone with ambition and a strong drive to succeed. Kelvi was focused on building a career. She studied cosmetology and had already established her own hairstyling business, serving clients in her community. In addition to cosmetology, she recently earned her security license, which gave her multiple career pathways. Kelvi had also considered studying nursing or pursuing law, demonstrating a wide range of interests and professional goals. Within her family and community, she was described as a go-getter. She was recognized for her outgoing nature, entrepreneurial mindset, and willingness to help others. Those who knew her often referred to her as intelligent, motivated, and determined. By early 2024, she had positioned herself as a young woman with multiple future opportunities, balancing education, entrepreneurship, and plans for long-term stability. The man later identified as the perpetrator was Kayshawn Woodrow Shaw. He was 19 years old at the time of the incident. Shaw was Kelvi's former boyfriend. The two had previously been in a relationship, but by early March 2024, the relationship had ended. Despite the breakup, Shaw was still living in the same home as Kelvi. This arrangement created ongoing proximity and contact, which became a point of concern. Reports from family members and witnesses revealed a pattern of violent and threatening behavior. There were documented incidents of Shaw displaying abusive tendencies toward Kelvi. These included confrontations that involved both verbal threats and physical aggression. Family members later stated that Kelvi had noticed red flags and had attempted to distance herself from him, but Shaw's continued presence in her life and in the same residence made it difficult to separate fully. This environment set the stage for escalating conflict. On March 5, 2024, one day before her death, Kelvi contacted 911 to report that Shaw had attacked her. According to the call and subsequent reports, she accused Shaw of strangling her, pointing a firearm at her, and threatening to kill her. This was a critical moment that established a clear threat to her safety. Documentation confirmed that law enforcement was made aware of the violent incident and the presence of a firearm. That same day, another confrontation between Kelvi and Shaw was recorded on video by her family. The footage reportedly showed Shaw chasing her outside, damaging her vehicle, and cracking the windshield. Following this confrontation, Kelvi attempted to leave the immediate area. She fled to Gaines Park, a public location, to seek safety. The situation demonstrated that she was actively trying to escape and protect herself from escalating violence. While at Gaines Park, Kelvi pointed Shaw out to police officers who were present. Officers then attempted to pursue Shaw's vehicle. The pursuit ended unsuccessfully, and Shaw was not apprehended. Although the police acknowledged the seriousness of the incident, their response did not include placing Kelvi in protective custody. She was not relocated to a safe house or shelter. Additionally, no emergency restraining order was filed at that time. The result was that Shaw remained at large, and Kelvi returned home without formal protection in place. The events of March 5th created a sequence of escalating warning signs. Kelvi reported being strangled, threatened with a firearm, and explicitly told she could be killed. These allegations met the threshold for potential felony charges, including aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and domestic battery by strangulation. Despite this, Shaw was not taken into custody. The confrontation outside, captured on video, provided visual evidence of Shaw's violent behavior. This included property damage in pursuit of Kelvi, further confirming her immediate danger. At Gaines Park, when Kelvi identified Shaw directly to officers, the opportunity to arrest him was present. However, Shaw fled in his vehicle and escaped apprehension. The lack of follow-up protective measures left Kelvi vulnerable. At the end of March 5th, the sequence of events demonstrated an escalating threat, a victim attempting to protect herself, and law enforcement unable to secure the suspect or provide effective safeguards. On March 6, 2024, at approximately 9:40 to 9:45 p.m., 18-year-old Kelvi McCray was inside her home in West Palm Beach, Florida. The setting was unremarkable, a young woman eating dinner while on a FaceTime call with 3 friends. The routine was disrupted when 19-year-old Kaleb Shaw, her former boyfriend, entered the home carrying a firearm. The two had been in a relationship that ended prior to this night, but despite the separation, he had still been present around the residence. Once inside, Shaw fired multiple rounds at McCray. Medical and police records later confirmed she was struck in the head, back, and neck. The friends who were connected to her by FaceTime became direct witnesses to the violence, hearing the gunshots and identifying Shaw as the shooter. Within minutes of firing at McCray, Shaw turned the weapon on himself. He sustained a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. McCray died later that night from her injuries. Shaw was transported to hospital and survived briefly, but was pronounced dead the following day. Several individuals became critical witnesses in the investigation. The 3 friends who were speaking with McCray at the time of the shooting reported hearing the confrontation and seeing Shaw's presence on the screen. One of them later assisted authorities in positively identifying Shaw during the follow-up investigation. McCray's mother, Marla McKinney, was inside the home during the incident. She heard the gunfire, called 911 immediately, and provided information to police about the circumstances leading up to the attack. Residents living near the McCray home reported hearing multiple gunshots around the time of the incident. Their statements supported the timeline established by police. A driveway video recorded on March 5th, 2024, the day before the shooting, showed Shaw chasing McCray and damaging her car. In the footage, he is seen cracking the windshield, further demonstrating his aggressive behavior. This recording became part of the evidence of escalating violence. On March 5th, McCray had called 911, reporting that Shaw had assaulted her, placed his hand around her throat, and pointed a gun at her head. In her account, she stated that Shaw had threatened her life. Police response was documented, and officers did pursue Shaw that evening, but he evaded capture. An autopsy revealed that McCray sustained gunshot wounds to the head, back, and neck. The cause of death was ruled homicide. Shaw's wound was ruled self-inflicted, confirming the murder-suicide sequence. Following the death of her daughter, Marla McKinney publicly questioned law enforcement's actions. She highlighted the 911 call from the night before, pointing out that Shaw was identified as a clear threat yet not taken into custody. McKinney stated that her daughter sought help but did not receive adequate protection. She emphasized that Shaw was known to police, his car was identified, and there was evidence of violence, yet he remained at large. In her words, authorities had the opportunity to act and failed to prevent the fatal outcome. Kelvi's uncle, Ricky Aiken, also spoke after the tragedy. He described her as ambitious, hardworking, and determined to pursue multiple career paths. He focused on her potential, noting that she had obtained her security license, maintained her own hairstyling business, and expressed interest in law or nursing. His statements underscored the future she had been working toward before her life ended. The community gathered in large numbers to recognize the loss. A beachside vigil drew hundreds of attendees. Attendees lit candles and spoke publicly about the impact of the incident. The vigil incorporated McCray's favorite colors, pink and purple, as a symbol of remembrance. Friends, relatives, and neighbors shared memories and discussed the need for stronger protections in similar domestic violence situations. The event was both a commemoration of McCray's life and a public demonstration, a concern over the circumstances that led to her death. In the aftermath, the family announced intentions to pursue legal claims against the West Palm Beach Police Department. The claim focused on allegations of negligence in the handling of the domestic violence complaint made just one day prior to the shooting. They argued that police were aware of Shaw's violent actions and threats. The family questioned why no arrest was made despite evidence of physical assault and threats with a firearm. They also questioned why McCray was not offered protective relocation or stronger security measures. The family stated that if answers were not provided within 6 months, they would move forward with a lawsuit against the department. When questioned about their response in the hours before Kelvi McCray's death, West Palm Beach police officials maintained that their officers followed established procedure. They stated that victim services had been offered to her. These services, according to the department, included referrals to domestic violence shelters, legal resources, and advocacy programs. Police also admitted that Kaleb Shaw, the alleged perpetrator, was still at large after the March 5th incident. They argued that locating him proved difficult in the hours following Kelvi's call for help, despite the fact that they had his name, his vehicle description, and information on his location earlier that evening. The department's official stance emphasized compliance with protocol. From their perspective, the proper resources were extended, and an active attempt was made to pursue Shaw. However, their statements left unresolved the gap between procedure and protection. The family of Kelvi McCray, along with community advocates, raised significant questions regarding the adequacy of the police response. On March 5th, Kelvi reported to 911 dispatchers that Shaw strangled her, threatened her with a firearm, and damaged her property. These allegations, if substantiated, constitute serious felony offenses under Florida law: aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, domestic battery by strangulation, and criminal mischief. In many jurisdictions, these charges are ground for immediate arrest. Despite these facts, Shaw was not taken into custody that night. Police acknowledged engaging in a brief pursuit of his vehicle, but abandoned the chase. He remained free, and within 24 hours, the threats reported by Kelvi materialized into lethal violence. Although police claimed that victim services were offered, there is no record that Kelvi was transported to or admitted into a domestic violence shelter. Her mother later reported that no officer insisted upon relocation or explained the urgency of leaving her residence. Instead, Kelvi returned home, where Shaw was able to locate her. The lack of enforcement and protective measures raises questions about whether victim safety was prioritized, or whether the burden was placed entirely on an 18-year-old to secure her own safety in a dangerous situation. Florida statutes outline mandatory procedures for domestic violence incidents involving strangulation and firearms. These include arrests when probable cause exists and mandatory seizure of weapons when used to threaten. Critics argue that probable cause was clearly established by Kelvi's 911 call, her on-scene statements, and witness video from the driveway. Whether those protocols were ignored, misapplied, or insufficient remains central to the criticism surrounding police actions. The case of Kelvi McCray illustrates larger systemic failures in addressing intimate partner violence. Domestic violence cases often follow patterns of escalation: verbal threats, physical assaults, use of weapons, and eventually homicide. Law enforcement agencies nationwide are trained to recognize these indicators. In this case, all markers of escalation were present: threats, prior violence, and firearm involvement. Yet intervention stopped short of preventing lethal harm. Kelvi's case also highlights weaknesses in protective services for young women in abusive relationships. At 18, she was legally an adult, but still vulnerable without extensive knowledge of navigating protective systems. Shelters and advocacy groups exist, but they require active engagement by the victim, and often victims remain in unsafe environments either from lack of resources, fear of retaliation, or absence of clear police guidance. The failure to bridge the gap between reporting violence and ensuring safety is where systemic weaknesses become evident. The case leaves multiple unresolved questions that go beyond the immediate events. Given the documented threats, the reported use of firearm and physical assault allegations, immediate arrest of Shaw on March 5th may have removed the threat. Whether such an arrest would have guaranteed Kelvi's survival is unknowable, but the opportunity for preventive action clearly existed. Florida law provides for arrest based on probable cause without a warrant in domestic violence cases. Video evidence, Kelvi's sworn statements, and witness testimony likely established that threshold. This raises the issue of whether officers underestimated the severity of the situation or chose not to exercise their authority fully. Reports indicate that Shaw remained in the residence despite no longer being in a relationship with Kelvi. This arrangement created ongoing access and opportunity for violence. The lack of enforcement of trespassing or removal procedures is a point of concern. Possible reforms include mandatory arrest policies when firearms are involved in domestic disputes, automatic relocation of victims to safe shelters following credible threats, rapid response teams dedicated specifically to high-risk domestic violence cases, stronger follow-up protocols to ensure suspects are located and detained quickly. According to Florida Department of Law Enforcement data, thousands of domestic violence incidents are reported annually, with several hundred resulting in homicides. Young women under the age of 25 are disproportionately represented among victims of intimate partner homicide. The escalation pattern in such cases is well documented. Controlling behavior, threats, physical assault, weapon use, and eventually lethal violence. Kelvi's case fits this trajectory almost exactly. It demonstrates the predictable, preventable nature of many domestic violent homicides when early warning signs are missed or disregarded. The immediate impact extended beyond Kelvi's family. Friends who witnessed her death via FaceTime experienced direct trauma. Her mother, who was in the home during the shooting, remains deeply affected. Neighbors who heard gunshots and responded to the chaos faced secondary trauma. At a broader level, the case undermined community trust in law enforcement. Residents questioned whether police would act decisively if they themselves reported domestic violence. This erosion of confidence carries long-term consequences for community safety. Kelvi's family has emphasized the need to keep her memory alive by advocating for greater protections for domestic violence victims. Vigils and community events have drawn attention to her story, and her case has become part of wider conversations about gaps in policing, resources, and systemic accountability. Her legacy, as framed by her family, is not only in who she was, a student, a business owner, a daughter, but in what her case represents: the urgent need for reform in how institutions handle threats of intimate partner violence. The sequence of events is clear. An ambitious young woman reported serious threats. Police pursued her abuser but failed to detain him, and within a day she was dead. Each stage contained warnings, opportunities, and failures. Kelvi McCray's case is not isolated. It belongs to a larger pattern of domestic violent homicides where red flags are visible but intervention is delayed or inadequate. The systemic issues, insufficient enforcement of domestic violence laws, lack of protective shelter placement, and limited accountability for institutional inaction, remain pressing concerns. The unanswered questions persist. Could earlier arrests have saved her? Did the police ignore or misapply their own policies? And how many more lives will be lost before systemic change occurs? Ultimately, Kelvi's story underscores a broader reality. Intimate partner violence is a recurring public safety crisis. Without comprehensive reforms in law enforcement response, victim services, and community support, similar tragedies are likely to continue. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.